So thank you, Nota, for this nice introduction. As Nota introduced, I come from this hybrid world of graphic design, audiovisual, creative coding. Also, I'm very linked with these new open source communities. Maybe most of you know about this open source concept. For me, this has been like a very important anchor point on my work. As I don't have any engineering background, I come more from the arts or the graphic design field. But thanks to these open source communities, I've been able to learn lots of things regarding engineering, regarding software programming, regarding hardware engineering. And as more or less you will see, my work is a mixture of all of these disciplines. So I come from this playmodes audiovisual research studio. This is the way we like to call ourselves. We work mainly with this sound, light, and movement spectrum of things. And we try to relate this, as I was telling, this audiovisual creativity with graphic design and with code. So today I made a selection of works which are related with architecture. As we are here on the Sound Tectonics workshop, I decided to focus on the projects which have this architectural component. So first work I would like to show, it's basically an audiovisual mapping show we made for the Kernel Festival in Italy. This was last year, and it was mainly our point of departure was try to work with a very minimalistic language, working just with black and white graphics, and with a very tight link between music and visual. You will see this is a constant in our work. We love this kind of synesthetic mixture, or try to hear the music or see the sound. No, this has been a constant for many years in our work. So this is an example of how we focus on this issue. So maybe that was enough. There's a lot of other projects that I would like to show. So maybe for those of you who don't know about what this is, we use the projection mapping technique, which is basically a projection technique for adjusting light or adjusting the graphics very precisely to some volumetry or to some object. It has been widely used in this kind of architectural shows or in this kind of big architectural shows. This was mainly this was the last of the shows or of this kind that we did, and from there on we tried to figure out or to find new ways of using this format or using this technique for other means than this kind of shows. So one of the first outcomes, or one of the first different ways of understanding this technique, which tends to be something very digital or made or produced by digital tools like these 3D animations or this vectorial type of graphics. We decided to come back to the handmade or to the more analogic way of creating, and we decided to collaborate with schools and with elder people doing the so-called handmade mapping. So this I'm going to show you online. In fact, it's here. So the basic idea is that we just do the technical project for this. Maybe we don't need the music here. Our role here is that we just made the technical project. We do the layout of this building. No, we do the orthophotography, and we do this layout, and we just photocopy this layout, and we give this to children, or we give this to elder people, so that they can paint it with their own pencils or their own colors. And then we help in creating an animated show using these analog images or these handmade images. So, although it's not a radical, or it's not very different from the previous show, we really love the relationships we are creating with the people that participated in this mapping. We usually make this show in small towns or in small neighborhoods. So the families of the children that have made this work come to see that. So they are like very proud to see the work of their grandchild or their sons or whatever. And it really creates a very close relationship between an audiovisual project and what people feels about it. So this is basically the final result. So you see these are just like still images animated on time with some music. So we really like this idea of a collective creation, from very little snippets or from very little illustrations. Always a SpongeBob, don't know why. So again, I think you can get an idea of how this ends. So taking this idea further, or this new, trying to find new applications or new ways of working with this new mapping format. We were commissioned last year to work in a museography project for an exhibition about Picasso. This was actually in the Picasso Museum in Barcelona, and it was an exhibition about the very first exhibition made by Picasso in Spain in 1936. But this was an exhibition without any painting. This was like kind of an exhibition of documents related to that very first exhibition. So you could see like photographies of the transport of the different paintings that were exhibited at that moment. You could see some press cuts, or you could see some letters that were being sent between the organizers of the exhibition and Picasso himself. So at the end, it was an exhibition that was full of documents, and we needed in a way to make to simplify the complexity of the relationships between all these documents and all the agents that were implicated in the creation of this exhibition. So we thought that in some way this projection mapping technique could be useful to reduce this complexity and make visible with graphic design and video projection to simplify all this complexity. So we ended up with, and this again I'm going to show it online. Let's see. So basically in this piece what we had was a 10-meter long wall with all these documents sticked. And of course, we needed to find, first of all, a graphic design system to link all these documents. And we started with this more Cartesian, or this more horizontal and vertical line approach. We found that this wasn't really clear. No, so there was also like an interesting graphic design process. So at the end, we finished with this more organic, or no, this which maybe is related to some biological systems, and this helped us a lot to simplify the kind of visualization that made easy for people to understand what were the relationships between the different agents and the different documents that were exhibited there. So here you can see. This is part of the process. You can see these documents hanged on the wall, and this extra layer of video projection linking these different documents. So the thing is that we could lead some concrete document. We could give some augmented information about this very specific document. Or we could lead groups of documents depending on their relationships. So another thing that was quite interesting was that we wanted to, in some way, to give people the opportunity to select what kind of documents were related between them. So we built this interactive table. We had some different pieces that people could fit inside a hole. So each of these pieces was related with one concept: Picasso himself, the transport of the artworks, or several concepts. I think there was 10. So when people put these pieces inside the hole, an animation was triggered on the wall, linking the different documents related with that very concept, no? that you could see on the piece. So this was for us an interesting experience on how these projection mapping techniques is not just about monumental audiovisual shows, no, with like this very sophisticated or Hollywood type of effects, but also could help us to simplify complexity in a museographic exhibition. or in an exhibition in a museum. So we really think that we will see more and more applications like this. So very related to this, to this finding or to this effort of looking for new ways of using this format. Now I would like to present the last work we've been doing. We've been working for a whole year in this. It's about the digital restoration of a painting in a church. It's a painting from the 12th century, which this painting was actually in the 12th century, was in this church in the Catalan Pyrenees. In the 1950, the original work was taken out from the church and was transported to National Museum in Barcelona, and this is where it stands now. So you can visit the original painting in Barcelona, and they just made a copy of this painting, and so in the original place they replaced the original with a copy. So some months ago, this copy was removed, and the idea was to again make a replacement of this copy with a digital copy of the painting itself. So it's been a very interesting process. We were afraid at the beginning because I think this is the first experience of this kind of trying to do this restoration of a painting which is heritage and which is the most known Catalan painting from this period, from this Romanic period, and we were a little afraid that this approach of digital restoration with video projection maybe wasn't going to work that well, or as well as a copy made with pigments, and we're really happy with the results. So we have some history, some of the history about this painting, but I'm going to shift a little. Okay, so we can see part of this process. So the thing is that this painting has been, until the 1950s, has been almost abandoned. So after the Romanic period, or after the Middle Ages, in the Renaissance, it was not given much value to this kind of Romanic paintings. So it was in some way mistreated, or it was like covered by other layers of painting, or with some furniture. So the thing is that after removing the copy that was here until this new process of digital restoration, when we removed the copy, there appeared like the deep layers of the original painting, so you could see the shadows of the original artwork. So the process we made involved several things. In one hand, we made a laser scanning of the church, so that we could have the three-dimensional geometry of the church. Then we made like a very big resolution photography of the original place in Barcelona, and our idea was to match the original that was in Barcelona with the deep layers that were still in the Pyrenees church. So for that we needed like we made a very interesting process of unfolding this three-dimensional geometry of the church, so that we could see in 2 dimensions what these rests of the paintings were, and also to facilitate the working or the work of the illustrators, so that they could work in a plane surface. This was in the church you have like this curved surface, or this sphere surface. So when you unfold that, what you get is very deformed image. So in the case of this Jesus Christ figure, you could see like the head, or no, when unfolding to 2 dimensions, you could see like a very deformed head. So we needed to elaborate an interesting process on how to correct all these deformations produced by the curves so that the illustrator could work easily. So basically, and not just for you to know some technical details about this, we installed 6 different video projectors covering the different parts of the church. So in that left image, you can see this mesh made by the 6 or by the test patterns of the 6 video projectors. And here there's a, well, this is quite light and maybe it can't be seen. Maybe we can see it later in a zoom image. Here we have like the layout or the matching of the painting, or the matching of our layout for this painting with the real rests in the church. So here again, we have like these yellow lines which are being projected over the deep layers of the painting itself. So you can more or less see what's left of the original painting here on the center. This is the Pantocrator figure. So there's still some elements that can be recognizable, and mainly our mission or our aim was to, in a first stage, was to come from that image or from that state, which is the original, or which is what you actually can see in this church when everything is off, to this first state, which is the state showing the painting which is still alive, or which is still conserved in the Barcelona Museum. So in this first stage, we can make a copy of what's left or what we conserve of this patrimonial heritage. And then this is like the last stage, which involves doing an hypothesis about how this church looked like in the 12th century. So here we are inventing, or here we are adding or doing some hypothesis on many of these characters. So taking as a point of departure what has been conserved, or with the Pantocrator or with some saints, we just completed the painting in a hypothesis, and this is something that is possible that we thought it was possible when working with light, because it's a non-invasive method for this kind of restoration projects. But maybe it's not. But maybe it's something that it's not fair to do when you are doing some gel paper or some pigment restoration over the original rests. So for us, this has been like a very interesting method because of this flexibility and because of this low damage to the original work. So in addition, when working with these digital technologies, we also have the possibility. Here you have a detail of this image. This is really a very high resolution image. I think it's 8K, so it's double than cinema. You can really tell if you are not a good specialist. You can really tell if there are pixels or if there's low resolution, and you can also trick the eye, and sometimes this looks like a real painting. So at the end, it's something that works very well. So one of the one of the other good things with this digital video projection approach to the restoration of this painting is that we can also explain something more than just the static image. And in some moments of the visit, the people that comes to this church can see part of the pictorial process. Let's see. So the whole project has been monitored by historians at the National Museum. This is something that, or this is a commission that comes from the government. So there's all this patrimonial department monitoring this project. So, well, it's not maybe because this is very dark or like very homemade recording, because this hasn't been inaugurated, or there hasn't been an official opening yet for this. It's actually coming on next Saturday. So we've worked also with this pictorial process, showing the different layers of painting, or how the sketch was done with this red dust that was actually made with rope, so that we can also explain more things that just showing the painting itself. And in fact, there's a project that in coming years to convert this into a more interactive, maybe using tablets or multi-touch surface, so that people can focus on a specific part of this painting and get augmented information on symbols or on meanings, on pictorial processes, or on the different characters that appear on this painting. So this is quite long, so maybe I'm just so there's the formation of this painting, character to character, or part to part of this painting. So this helps to focus visitors on the different parts of the painting. So basically, we make all this pictorial process, or the building of this painting, and then we leave the painting statical, so that people could so can have an overall look at all the different elements. So again, for us, this has been like a very interesting process or a very interesting project on how to shift these projection mapping technologies to something that it's not just about entertainment, but it's in this case about restoration of a painting or about patrimonial conservation. Then shifting or leaving projection mapping behind, but also related with light and architecture. This was not actually a commission. This was more a free work or an auto commission. This was a work made in a festival in Girona. This is actually a water tank, an underground water tank. It's a closed space that obviously being a water tank, was used for storing water. You can see the shadows of humidity on the rests of water on the walls. So we were very interested, or we really wanted to experiment or to make some research with laser light, because we wanted to be able to make three-dimensional dynamic paintings on space. And as laser lines or laser lights have this very, very precise and line-like aspect, we wanted to think on laser as this drawing material, no? So that we could, using mirrors and using motors, be able to make like changing three-dimensional figures in space. So here again, maybe we can see some static images. Here we also see some images of the building process. So basically, we installed mirrors in several places of the architecture. We also placed these laser scanners that we built ourselves. Maybe I explain further about it. So that we could make this laser light bounce from one mirror to the other, so that we could create these complex figures. So this came from this was done in a week, and this was kind of a residency in this space. So we started with these drawings to try to figure out where to place the different mirrors, or how to work with all these materials, or how to reinterpret the geometry of this architecture in a new way using light. And then we prefer to build ourselves all the systems, including hardware and software, than to buy or to rent this. Because we really, as I said before, we come from these open source communities, and we really enjoy learning on the process, on building this kind of things. So we used open source technologies like Arduino to build all the electronics that could drive these little motors. And then we also built a software that can score the movement of light in time. And this is a problem that we've been finding from long time ago. We have like these linear video editors. We have this software for editing music, but we couldn't find a software that helps us in scoring complex multimedia projects. So we collaborated with a guy from the United States, James George, who is an C++ and open frameworks programmer, in the building of this software. This is actually now released as an open source and free software, so you can download it and use it, or even manipulate it, because you have the access to the code. So this is called Duration, and this helps us to make links, or to make relationships between music. No, you can see the audio waveform there, between music and all kind of multimedia elements. In this case, we were moving motors, so with these curves, we can control the rotation of one axis of these motors. Also, we can control the intensity of laser light in time, and also, as you see here, these little lines, or these color lines. With this, we can control RGB lighting or RGB LED lighting. And we can do it in just one interface with a very graphical approach, and always having the music or the waveform at site, so we can very precisely link everything. So this process was not just about creativity, or was not just about reinterpreting the geometry of this space in a light show, but was also about developing tools that could help us on making this creativity possible. And this is a kind of process that we really love. So not just, so yeah, we love to play music, but we also love the luthierism part. So I would say it's half and half. We like to play the instruments, but we also like to build the instruments. So maybe we can see a little abstract of the results for this show or for this immersive space. This was actually a permanent installation that was in a loop, so people could get in at any time and see it working. There was something very interesting regarding this project, and that is very related to what we are working these days in the Sound Tectonics workshop. Here we made some research, so trying to find the resonant frequency of this space. And we found that at 42 Hertz, the amplitude or the volume of sound was increased with like very powerful. So we use that frequency as a fundamental tone for working with all music. You know? So everything that is tonal here is related with 42 Hertz, so that we could use the architecture itself as a resonance box. This is something that obviously cannot be experienced just watching at the video. This has to be felt in the space itself. But it was really amazing because we're using like very little sound system. We could make the space speak by itself. So, and that was like that was a surprise. We didn't expect that to happen. We just found this in the process of making. And that was really a good experience for us and a very nice process of learning. So I recommend you, if you're interested in this kind of projects, you maybe just can watch online or look for it on Vimeo, and for sure you're going to see it much better. So just to end, this is not a creative project. This has more to do with educational stuff. We've been doing a laboratory of research in the threads of scenography, theater, dance, hybridized with new technologies. So we have been doing this laboratory once a year I think for 5 years now. And the idea is just to make this mixture of different people with different profiles, people coming from the music field, from the cinema, from the theater, designers, scenographers, with the aim of developing very little sketches or very little scenographic sketches where we use these multimedia technologies in a creative way with the participation of everyone. And we just do like these very little sketches using these technologies, and we try to figure out, or we try to imagine what all this can be useful for in terms of telling a history or showing emotions or these kind of things. So we work with lighting systems in the theater. We work with the idea of the interactive object. We work with body and video projection, and it's always like a very nice process. So, for example, what you've seen, it's a very simple sketch. We made this interactive object or these interactive chairs, which simply had attached a button on the place where you sit. So when you sit it, you just controlled or open or close the light of the lighting system from the theater. This was a formal experiment more related to dance. So we had this zenital video projector together with a video camera. So we performed some computer vision functions to determine where the dancer was in the space, and we could make this line following the dancer in the space. This maybe is not that interesting. So of course the participants themselves play play as an actors or as dancers. So in most cases it's not professional people. We have a lot of fun, but you don't expect professional results in the actoring side. So this was like a very simple evolution of this very first concept of the interactive object. Here we are not just opening or switching on or switching off the light, but we wanted to trigger this synchronized light and sound animation. So although these are like very simple concepts, it helps us, during this kind of workshop. It helps us a lot on understanding the different possibilities or the different creative possibilities we have by using these multimedia technologies in the context of theater. So this is another example of how can we augment in this case, the performance of a musician. He's not a professional musician, but he knew how to play the trumpet. So we worked on this visualization on this music visualization system. So we talked a little about this in the Sound Tectonics workshop. This is basically, on the technical side, this is just a microphone and a camera. With the microphone, we can know when the trumpet player is playing. With the camera, we can know where the trumpet is. So at the end, we can generate these notes or this graphic behavior appearing from the trumpet every time he's playing. So we really love these simple approaches in the context of this workshop. And in lots of cases, these sketches are developed further by the participants, and in this case, this guy transformed this into a full show together with a dancer and with some musicians, and with very, very nice results. So it's kind of a proof of concept environment for projects that are being developed further. And this is the last of this series of the interactive object, or with the interactive chairs. So we wanted to add video, to this chair or to this interactive system. So every time someone is sitting on one of these chairs, there appears randomly one head, one body, or one bottom of one of 4 different animals, making these random combinations or these fantastic animals. So this is again a very simple exercise, but we have a lot of fun doing this kind of things. So that was all. Thank you.